So today I am going live with actually one of my closest friends, the beautiful and amazing Isik Tlabar. We are talking today about how Isik and I manage our emotions as women running businesses and still manage to stay in our feminine energy. We're going to be talking specifically about the tools that we use, and we're going to share a bit about how Isik and I got to know each other, where we met, how our journey has grown, how the tools that we use have changed and evolved over time. Hello, my love. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm really good. It's so good to have you here. But Isik, my love, please introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are, what you do, and why you're currently in Turkey, if you feel to.
So I'm Isik. I'm an intuitive coach and a breathwork facilitator, and my work is all about connecting people to their highest potential through using their magic and their intuition, so they can create their dreams, their visions in their lives. I created and built my business in London. I was there for 12 years in UK, and 4 months ago I moved back to Istanbul, where I'm from. I'm Turkish, having this here as a base, also traveling around.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing, my love. I was saying how we met on a particular training and how we learned certain tools from that training, and I still use those tools like a lot. They're part of like my staying sane repertoire.
Yeah, definitely.
So for those of you who don't know me, hello, welcome. My name's Natalie Ford. I'm a dating and relationship coach, and I support women, particularly women who have fiery tempers, to learn how to channel that energy constructively and build strong communication around that in their relationships, so they can build relationships that last and that are really nurturing and beautiful and strong. I work in London, I work online, and I have a workshop coming up at the end of February in London, which I'm going to be telling you about through this live stream. Yeah, Isik and I met, I don't know, 8 years ago, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Maybe. Now both run our own businesses, and running a business is quite a masculine energy thing, right? There's a lot of doing, there's a lot of structure, and yeah, talk to us, Isik, about how do you stay sane in all of that, and what tools do you use that really support you to stay in your feminine energies?
When I first started out, I approached it from a very masculine perspective. I approached it from, okay, running business, like how do I do it? I pushed myself a lot and had a lot of burnouts, actually, and start to build my confidence in what I'm doing and seeing the results. Then I start to actually move more into the feminine. So now the way I see running my business is quite feminine, actually. Like, I don't have to-do list. I put things in the calendar when I need to do them. That's where they are, and I do it. And I wake up having a plan, obviously, but I go, okay, like what would I put in fun time, joy time, and it's quite organic. I always listen to my energy and actually plan it like based on that. So about like staying sane, so running business, there's a lot of like emotional up and downs. There's a lot of like highs and the lows, and nothing is personal. That's what I learned as well. Like nothing is personal.
Yeah.
And I used to take it personal years ago, like especially when I first started, but now it's just feedback. It's just information, and I just take that on. I apply it. This applies with everything in life as well, not just running business. Yeah, it's not personal. Make an adjustment and then moving on. But whenever there was, let's say, an emotional up and down, the training Natalie and I did together is called ISTA, Spiritual, Sexual, Shamanic Training. I have something called emotional release tools, and this is something I also encourage people to do when I do breathwork sessions or breathwork journeys, group sessions. And that's basically you're using breath, sound, and movement to move the energy in the body so that it doesn't get stuck, so that you're not getting ill, you're not just holding on to that. It's moving through your system, it's moved out, and then fresh start, anew, every day.
Yeah.
Maybe this could be a good point in going into those tools.
Yeah, because the emotional energy can sort of like really start to weigh us down if we don't process it, right? It's what's underlying our stress. It's what's underlying when we don't sleep properly. It's what's underlying when we get really tearful and we don't know why. It's all of those things. That's all unprocessed emotion. So yeah, let's talk about some of the tools that we've learned and also that I'll be teaching at the end of February. So if you like what we're showing here, come and join me in London end of February, and there's going to be a whole workshop on this. But yeah, go for it. What's your like go-to one?
I like the hand scream, and hand scream this is great because, like, I'll just show it. You can do it when you're out and about somewhere. You can just go to the toilet, and basically you can use this whenever you're triggered, you're stressed, you're having anger coming up, frustration, sadness, something like you're not in equilibrium. Your system is activated and you're in a triggered place. And this is great to release the charge. And once you've released the emotional and physical charge, then you can tune into what's my truth? Like, what do I do? Like, what's the next step? Which often comes like when you release the emotional charge, your body actually like tells you, but it's harder to get there unless you release this spirit state. So you go like this, like a seal, take a deep breath.
I'll do it too.
And then that's it. You shake off without a sound. So this is great. You can go to a toilet cubicle and you can just do it there. I do this a lot when I'm out in public and, you know, there's a situation, I just go to the toilet and do this. There's also other ones like the tantrum one. This is very typical if you've ever been to a breathwork session, especially transformational breathwork. You're laying down, you're having your hand by your side going, shaking your feet on the ground as well, like a kid throwing a tantrum, basically.
Exactly, just like you see the 5-year-olds doing.
Yeah.
Because they're uninhibited, and this is actually the way that we naturally would express and release emotion if society hadn't told us don't do that. This is, you know, this is the way animals do it, this is the way children do it. And the only reason we as adults don't do it is because we've had years and years of conditioning that says that's not acceptable, but actually it's the natural way, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, if you have any questions, for those of you watching us, feel free to type at any point. I had a lot of questions about these when I first started to do them. And these are great for, because our mind likes to intellectualize it, like, oh, what am I feeling? Where's it coming from? Is it from my, like, analyze it? And that's, you know, great to do to some extent, but what's much more powerful is to actually allow yourself to feel it. You go through it, which is painful, by the way. Yeah. Like it can feel difficult and hard, but imagine it's like 90 seconds of pain and then you're free instead of holding on to this story for like a month, a year, or whatever. So it's great to use these tools. You go through it and then you can just sit down and analyze, okay, like what was that about? Where did it come from? All of that.
And I'd actually love to ask those of you who are watching, like when you feel emotion, like maybe you've had a really bad day and you've come home and you're stressed and you're frustrated, or maybe even angry or sad, or, you know, you've had a bereavement in the family or a breakup in your relationship. How do you process that emotion? Like, share with us in the comments. I'd love to hear, like, what are the ways that you guys are currently using? And also a curiosity, like, how long does that emotion usually stay in your body? Are you able to move it like within a few hours? Are you able to move it within a few days? Or is it more like weeks and months? Because I know before I discovered these tools, like I would come home stressed from a day and I was still stressed and annoyed about that day when I went to work like the next day. Like I would carry it with me like to the next day, in the next, you know, maybe throughout that week. And then whoever happened to get in my way on the tube would get it because I'd had a bad day the day before. And things like breakups would take months for me to grieve because, well, I didn't really process the emotion. I held on to it. So yeah, I'm really curious. Those of you who are watching, share with us in the comments. Let us know your experiences.
For me, this was especially useful when my dad passed away.
Oh yeah.
8 years, no, it's 2018. What's that? 5 years. Wow, 5 years ago now. I remember, so he passed away around September, and it was also more autumny, wintry time, which is so common. More emotions tend to that come out around this time because it's more inwards. Just like if you're a woman, you have a menstrual cycle. Before you have your period, PMS is actually a time where you have your triggers come up to be cleared and felt, and showing you the wisdom so that you can actually apply that in the next like phase. There's a reason for all this like cycle happening. So he passed away very suddenly, and I just gave myself 3 months to still do my work as like, you know, do the sessions, but not launching anything or not doing anything extra, maintain it. And I did breath work every morning for half an hour,
Wow.
just laying there, allowing like that half an hour actually just because I had sessions to do and like I had to show up, and
Yeah.
serving actually just puts me in it, like in my best version. So it naturally like helps me. It gives me that purpose to, okay, like I can't just, lay down all day, which I could if I want to, but that's not, I'm not at my, I feel like I'm not, how can I explain this, fully living, like I'm not being used in a good way. So I did those half an hour breathwork journeys, like breathing in and out, moving, making sounds, the tools, the thingy, tantrum.
Tantrum.
Yeah, all of that. And I know you have a favorite one, like standing up and doing this one, which is more like stomping your feet. And it just allowed the grief to move through me. I remember at one point though, it was I think 2 months in, I felt, okay, my joy is lost forever. I'm just in this place. I'm never gonna feel joy again. It was just almost like this. Because what happens is when you allow yourself to feel these emotions, anytime you didn't allow yourself to feel also start to come up. So you, for example, I had a breakup where, again, 7 years ago, it was conscious uncoupling. So we were holding each other through that process. Any time I had a separation that wasn't done with love, there was trauma, that also came up to be cleared. Yeah. So when you're using the tools and allowing yourself to feel it, it might feel like a lot of built up energy coming out, and you might feel, when's this going to end? This is like never ending. But then it does this curve. There's like big lump, and then you go, okay.
Yeah.
So it eventually gets better, basically.
So we call this like emotional backlog.
Yeah.
And yeah, Angela, thanks so much for sharing your experience as well here. I see you. And what you're talking about when you feel like there's so much and you can't find the motivation to move through it. Think about like a backpack, a rucksack or a backpack that you're carrying around with you. And every time you get hurt, every time you get stressed, every time you get frustrated, angry, all of your pain, you're putting a rock in your backpack every single time. And after you've done that for like 20 years, it's a really, really heavy backpack. And you lose your joy, right? Because it weighs you down. You're carrying this emotional baggage with you all of the time. It takes away your joy. It takes away your vibrancy. It takes away like your magnetism, your ability to manifest and attract, and so many things. But when you start doing breath work, emotional release, what you do is each time you do that process, you take a few rocks out of your sack. The sack is still heavy because you still got like maybe 20 years worth of rocks in there, but the more you take out, and you can start to make it lighter, right? And so eventually you do actually get to the bottom. So all you're carrying in your backpack is just what happened today. And we call that emotional fluency or emotional currency, where you're no longer carrying like the whole of your past. You've just got today's emotions, and it's so much easier to process, right?
Yeah. And I like to see as, this is, I always explain this in the beginning of the breathwork journeys, there's lighter emotions like gratitude, love, joy, the emotions that are celebrated in our society, like, hey, I'm happy. Why are you happy? Like no one, questions it. And then there's like sadness, grief, shame, the ones that are like not very taught how to process, how to feel, how to even communicate or share. Yeah. So it's like heavier, like darker. It's not good or bad. It's just denser or lighter. And the more you actually allow these emotions, the denser ones, to move through you, it's like you're expanding your spectrum of feeling more. Your joy will be lighter. So after that process, that phase of not feeling my joy and the grief, 2 months after that, it was the next year, like around February, my laughter changed. Like the way I laughed started to just like deepen. I was like, wow, this is like a different laugh. Like unlocked a whole different laughter. So that gave me proof almost, like especially Angela, who commented like it can feel like a lot of like, how do I even begin? Bit by bit, step by step, knowing that every time you feel, you're also expanding into joy, into love, into gratitude. You're just becoming more human, basically. We're not meant to live in this controlled, limited way of like, okay, I'm happy but not so happy. I'm sad but not so sad. It's quite limited.
Yeah.
And it's really personal choice. Do you want to live that way, or do you want to actually expand and allow all spectrum of humanity, your expression? there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, but like you're living at least. And I think that's just so worth
And
it.
I think if you're the sort of person who's drawn to the type of work that Isik and I are doing, you are a full spectrum type of person. You know, you don't want to just be like living in one lane of the motorway. You want to be living in all of the lanes, right? You want to be living life to the full. And one of our teachers, one of the teachers that Isik and I share, a beautiful lady called Elaine Young, she talks about emotions being two sides of a coin. So happiness and sadness are actually two sides of the same coin. You can't have the fullness of one without the fullness of the other.
Yeah.
So the beauty of this work is when we get better at holding our sadness and processing and feeling that, we also, as Isik was just saying, like our joy expands. And the same anger and passion are two sides of the same coin. You know, if you're somebody who doesn't really express your anger because you were taught that it was bad or wrong or dangerous, you probably also struggle to really tap into your passion for life as well, because it's the same energy. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Isik. It's really, yeah, beautiful to hear you speak in that way.
Yeah. And actually with anger, I want to say, like, I remember I was told in the past, like, I'm too much, I'm too passionate, I'm too free, I'm too sexual, I'm too playful, like all these things. Like I'm just an intense person. I just own it now. I'm just all in or nothing. And you're like that too. That's what I'm saying. And anyone, you know, who's listening to this going, it's okay to be that way. That's our expression. And I feel like the more you feel, the deeper your expression will be.
Yeah.
And the more present you will be. And your presence wasn't like actually totally can go into this direction, but like your presence might be triggering for people. Like how open you are, like how can you be this open? How can you be so direct or honest? And sometimes in our society we dim down our expression. We go like, oh, let me be a bit more small, a bit more, you know, good girl, especially good girl conditioning. It's, you know, don't be too loud, don't rock the boat, like be lovely and nice. That's an aspect of, I have a bubbly personality, like I'm naturally like, hey, you know, but like I'm a passionate person as well. And the moment a few years ago when I owned that passion, I just started to communicate more directly and with love, not with, you know,
No, you're
meanness.
always very loving. At least that's how I experience you anyway.
Yeah. So it's about like owning that, like owning who you are as well.
Yeah, and actually I have a similar thing, but around the intensity. For years and years, I was told I'm too intense, I'm too much, I overthink things, I dive too deep, all of the too muchness, right? And for quite a while, I tried to make myself less than. I tried to be like, oh, right, okay, so I'm supposed to analyze a bit less, and I'm supposed to feel a bit less, and all the things. And then as I did my personal development work and started to really become authentic and own all of me, the thing that was pivotal in me calling in my dream partner was recognizing and fully owning and taking on board, I am an intense woman. And whoever wants to be with me is going to have to handle that. Like, so I actually started writing it on my dating profiles. I was like, yeah, you need to be drawn to intensity. You need to be lit up by my intensity rather than intimidated by it or turned off by it. And of course, I called in a beautiful man who loves my intensity. So yeah, this is what happens when we own our truth, right? So, oh, do you want to speak a little bit about breath work? I mean,
Yeah, let's do it.
you do, so you did like an everyday practice of breathwork in the morning. What made you become a breathwork facilitator?
So I got into breath work when I was young, like 19. I would say that's like 12 years ago now. And then I kept doing my practice in and out. Sometimes I pause and go back into it. And then it was really after meeting Elaine, I assisted her a few times and learned from her. And with my partner at the time, we said, well, let's just start doing those, you know? So we started holding like small breathwork groups, like 6 people. It's a magical space. It's a super healing transformation space where doing it alone is powerful, but there's something in the group energy that you receive permission from other people's expression and sounds, and it's like, wow, we're all in this together, and it's a beautiful like place where you feel one with everyone as well. Like, wow, we're all the same, actually. We don't have many differences. We think we are. We
Yeah.
have our own visual expression, but we want similar things. We go through similar things. So it was that, like, it was actually like seeing, wow, this is beautiful, and like I love holding magical places, spaces. So that was back in 2018, and kept doing it like once a month, and they grew and grew until there were like 30 people like in one room, and you
Yeah.
like we did it
I
together,
used
so
to
you were
come and
seeing
assist
each other.
you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it. Amazing.
2 years ago, naked breathwork, after doing a sexological bodywork training, and there was a lot of emphasis around like nudity, how it's like liberating, and like body image and shame, healing that. I was feeling into like, how can I combine that work with what I'm already doing? And I was like see how it goes, and it was amazing. It worked, and I've been doing that like since then.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it in Turkey as well. Let's see.
I would
Let's see how
love for you to start doing either breathwork or
it's
naked
going.
breathwork in Turkey. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I used to come and support your breathworks in the UK, and that was part of like my journey as well of opening into a breathwork facilitator. Just the way it connected me with my body and the way it allowed me to feel sensation and pleasure in my body in a way that I hadn't been able to before. The way that I was able to, I can't even describe it. It's process things through my body and expand my ability to feel. And I noticed that it actually helped me in like love making as well. Like the more I could feel in breathwork, the more I could feel in love making too.
Yeah.
It became more and more pleasurable. And with the help of like emotional release tools, I was able to express myself fully, because if anybody out there is still holding on to the belief that like sex is just pretty and smiley and all good emotions, like I have to break it to you, it's not. Sex brings up everything that you're feeling inside, like your sadness, your grief, your anger, your frustration, of course your happiness, your joy, and your pleasure as well. But to create a space for ourselves where we can hold all of that in our lovemaking and our relationship and our personal space, like it's just been so powerful for me.
Yeah, and like breath work and lovemaking, they're not very different as well. Like it can look like quite a similar thing when you're moving through emotions, you're expressing, you're making sounds. And I actually tell people, like before being intimate with them, I might cry, and they're like, "Yeah, cool," and then I often cry.
Yeah.
So it's natural. Like it's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh.
Yeah.
Have a pause. Continue. Like I feel like we get such a not a great sex education with porn. Like it's quite performative. It's all about how it looks, but not how you're feeling in the inside. And as you connect with more of that feeling, it becomes a bit more authentic, more vulnerable for sure.
Yeah.
But more real, I want to say. Like it becomes more human. I wish they did porns like that.
Yeah.
More human. Maybe someone does it out there somewhere.
Maybe one day we'll start getting real porn where people actually have
Human.
emotions and,
Yeah.
all sorts of things. I just want to come back to Angela. She was asking that, yeah, she self-sabotages and procrastinates and is struggling to push through. So the bit that I used for me, because yeah, I hear you, like it's not nice to have to go, it's not nice to open up that bag for the first few times and see like, oh my God, like what is in here? But there's a couple of things. One, to know that when you get to the other side, it is going to be so worth it. Like your life is going to be so much different, like so different and so much better than how it is now. Like it's going to, all the things you want to call in, that's going to be part of it. But also it's really believing that you're worthy of having a different experience. That's the thing, Angela. You've got to believe that. I remember I always used to feel like, surely this just isn't it. Like life just, this isn't just how life should be. Like there's got to be more. I always just used to question and think to myself, like, life just shouldn't be crap, it shouldn't just be work and frustration and arguments with my boyfriend and then sleeping and repeating like that. Surely there's more to life. And that was the thing that drove me forward, was the thing of just trusting and believing like there's got to be more there. And there is, because Isik and I, and there's many beings out there in our friendship circles as well, who are living proof that life on the other side of emotional freedom is, yeah, it's everything that you would want it to be. Doesn't mean that it's easy, doesn't mean it's without challenges, but you get to move through them easier. There's more expansion, there's more joy, there's more pleasure, there's deeper connections, deeper love, deeper experiences. Like, Angela, I promise you, my love, it's so worth it. Please come and join me the end of February in my workshop, and we'll support you to move through that baggage. So yeah, definitely.
I love that. And I also want to add to that, like on a practical level, going to group spaces absolutely helps.
Yeah.
And if you want to do like a solo time, you can literally put like 10-minute timer. It helps if you put a timer on. Like I knew I can just go deep for like half an hour, let's say, or 20 minutes. If it's like non-timed, it's like, how long are we going to be in this? It's like, where is this end?
Yeah.
But that 10-minute like container, exactly, you just go in and like just put your phone aside, maybe a sound playlist. I have a grief playlist, happy to send it for anyone who wants that. Like I just put that playlist on. I'm like, okay, I'm going to process for 10 minutes. And you go in, you move, you shake, you just allow yourself to go into that, process that, and then you hold yourself, and that's it. Like you can do that. You can even put in your calendar so that it's in your calendar. You can do it every day. You can do it like 3 times a week. So that can be like a mini, almost like you go to the gym. You can't just go to the gym and be like, okay, where's my muscles? Like it's a practice as well. So you can do that and top that up with like one-to-one sessions or group places as well.
It's actually a practice of self-love, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like someone said this to me the other day. You know how like on our calendars we see people, we go out, we have dinners and do all these things, but what are we actually putting in our calendar about something we do with ourselves? Like maybe the 2-hour rest time or 2-hour. There's something called Artist Day that I love. It's from Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. You go and take yourself out for a date, like 2 hours every week. It can be an exhibition, it could be a dinner, it could be something creative. Like putting those in so that you see on your calendar, maybe you're 15 minutes late, but you go, oh shit, I'm late to my own thing, and you still do it. So yeah, that's important too.
It's ultimately making a commitment to yourself, right? We can't expect others to want to commit to us if we're not even willing to commit to ourselves. So this is the foundation of how we call in high caliber love and how we create the life that we want for ourselves. So Isik, would you like to share about any events you've got coming up, or how people could work with you if they're interested in learning more about the work you do?
Yeah, so I'm actually coming to London for 2 weeks, end of February. Before we're gonna meet. And when I come, I do like in-person breathwork sessions. They're 2 hours long. It's your personal, I want to say ceremony, because they go very deep. If there's anything you want to release, let go of, and you want to connect. People often book these to connect with their power as well, like their strength, their power. If they're in a transitional place, they're having a bit of a rebirth moment as well, like transitioning in life, a different version of you is like coming out. Feel free to message me. I have maybe like 1 or 2 spaces for those. So that's going to be in London, or I do online breathwork sessions as well. It works as powerful, and similar thing, letting go of what you want to let go of and reconnect with whatever it is you want to call it into your life, connect with. I don't have any group events coming up, but if you're part of a community, I hold group breathwork sessions for communities, or group programs. So if you're interested in that, you can always message me as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And as I've mentioned, so 24th of February in London, I am holding an emotional release and shamanic breathwork day. It's called Body and Soul Expansion. It is for people of all genders, all backgrounds, all ages. Essentially, if you are somebody who lives and breathes and feels, please come along. What we're going to be doing on the day is it's going to be a deep like self-love ritual. Ultimately, you're going to come along in the morning. There'll be a ritualistic circle that we're going to open. There'll be a little bit of sharing space, and then I'm going to teach you some of the tools that Isik and I have been sharing about today. We're actually going to learn maybe around 10 or 12 of those, and then there's going to be this beautiful process to actually practice them, move some of your energy, move some emotions, and some grounding afterwards, followed by a beautiful long lunch break. And then in the afternoon, we're going to go into a shamanic breath work. So having already moved quite a lot of emotion in the morning, the shamanic breath work will allow you to go deeper into your body and soul, connect with any parts of yourself you've lost, you want to call back, or any intentions that you want to call in. If you're wanting to come along, go to the link in my bio, or you can just drop me a DM and ask about body and soul expansion. And there's literally just 11 tickets left. So come and book and get in that. And I'd love to meet you in person.
Thank you, Natty, for having me.
Okay, let's end it here. Lots of love to Isik and everybody watching. Thank you for joining. All the best.